So, hello, ladies. Welcome on in. How are you today? I am so excited to get a chance to hop in here on YouTube. I actually had a meeting that got rescheduled at the last minute, and I was already prepared to be um, on camera today. So I just decided to go ahead and pop in here and invite you guys into the conversation on today. I hope that all is well. Some of you last week, you know that I was in Palm Springs, California on a girls' trip. I was able to pop in for a little bit there and talk about my travel and how I self care when I'm traveling and finding all those elevated habits. So I just wanted to welcome you in today. Today's topic is going to be very interesting. It's something that one of my girlfriends and I are actually going to film um, a more extended version on this topic within the next few weeks, and we're going to put it on our YouTube channel. And we are going to talk about basically how we've been able to find work-life balance and or work-life harmony at these levels, and how our self-care practices have aided us in um, doing this, right? And so we're going to have an extended discussion that I will be uploading to my YouTube page probably sometime in September. But for today, I wanted to go ahead and sort of introduce my story with that and just kind of also connect with you guys to see what you've been doing in terms of making sure that you're able to find that work life balance and kind of how all of this works when you are a wife and a mom and you have a career and you are, even if you're not a wife, if you're rotationally dating or you're engaged or you're single and mingling, whatever it is, you're a daughter and you have all of these roles. And so many women really do struggle to sort of make time for all of it. And it's so funny because you can like wake up one day and you just neglected it, right? And so I'm going to share a little bit with you guys about my own personal story and some of the inner work that I've had to do on my journey around just finding that proper harmony with it all, right? And so I have some questions that I'm going to kind of be answering that you guys have brought my way on YouTube, or excuse me, on Instagram, or as I've been doing my courses, there have been questions that you guys have emailed me. And so I wanted to make sure to address some of those while we start this topic on today. And so, a bit about my story as it relates to finding that work life balance or in that work life harmony. I've had a few key moments in my own journey whereby, I sort of had to, I guess I would say, force. It was almost as though either you were going to take care of you were going to take better care of yourself, or you were going to legitimately live a lesser quality life, right? And there's been some key moments in my journey whereby I sort of realized that. And I made a more conscious and deliberate decision to start investing more in my self care, which is why I'm sort of a core ambassador for self care as it relates to being a mom and a woman, and especially when you're talking about moving at high levels in your life. So for me, you guys know that I'm an attorney, and once I started my journey to attorney after grade school and after college, once I started my journey to attorney, it became really noticeable that the workload associated with, that field was going to take a significant amount of my time away from some of the things that I enjoyed prior to, going to law school, right? You kind of went to college and you had your free time and you could do what you wanted to do. And then once you kind of hit these professional schools, all that free time went away. And so I personally found myself turning a bit more to emotional eating during that time. Some of you know my story. I like gained a certain amount of weight while I was in law school. And it was because I was trying to deal with that pressure of that additional workload. I needed to relieve some of that pressure, and the place where I found the most joy at the time, and it was also the quickest, was, oh, enjoy your meal. And so practically, I feel like that was one of my first things after I passed the bar and I kind of look back on like what I had to sacrifice in order to get that to that place, and I didn't have to sacrifice it, but it was almost unconscious that I did it, right? It was like, oh, I need pleasure to get through all of this workload and all of this extra weight that was in my life. And I, subconsciously or unconsciously turned to just the pleasure of food, right? And so on my journey, I would say that was probably one of the first things is recognizing like what it was that I would sacrifice in order to get something else. That was kind of like the big theme at that time. And I know for me, as it relates to some of the key problems that I see women come to me when you guys are ready to coach and when you guys are ready to like turn that corner and you're like, that I'm ready to live a better life. And you're following me and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by your story, et cetera, et cetera. One of the key problems that I see is that a lot of us have not really sat down and grounded ourselves in, what do we really do in order to relieve the pressure from a lot of these more weighty titles and weighty experiences that we have in life, right? And so maybe your weighty title isn't lawyer, but your weighty title could be stay at home mom, or it could be maybe you're the primary caregiver for a spouse that is ill or a parent that is ill. Wherever it is that you have welcomed a certain amount of weight into your life and you have not yet increased your self-care and your personal support in order to manage that weight, right? And it kind of all falls on you. And if your life was at a place where you're like, oh, I remember when I was happy, I remember when I was vibrant, I remember when I was connected, and you allow this area where you're now starting to get wounded or weighted, or even worse, for some of you guys, you're traumatized. The very first step that I would say you need to do in your inner work journey is to begin to become aware of what you're doing to overcompensate for those weights. And in my courses, in the Self Care Queen course, one of the main exercises that grounds that course when you are ready to like shift, when you're ready to bring back that youthfulness, that glow, when you're ready to reconnect to, that part of life that almost gives you butterflies or goosebumps, like you're super excited to get up most days. You have this inner joy and this inner happiness that, you're looking for again, and you're really trying to reconnect to that. That is what my brand focuses on. It focuses on reconnecting you to those life-giving experiences that allow you to thrive, right? And not just exist anymore. And the first step in you shifting, into a better place in your work life relationship and having more work life balance is understanding what you do now that is giving you a certain amount of pleasure, and kind of like, but it's also taking away from you having a healthier lifestyle, right? So I was trying to get from the weight of what was going on with this, very demanding schooling and career. For you, it may be something else. And I turned to another place of pleasure, but I went overboard there, right? So that was one of the first things that I recognized as a key problem with work-life balance, was when you allow yourself to get to the place where you're past that stress and you're now not able to perform at those levels where you feel just genuinely happy and your vibration is at a great level. And so that's one of the key problems. The second key problem I would say in that kind of came up in my own story, and that I see ladies kind of just continuously, like, we trip up over this in our journeys, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like how many more women are going to fall prey to, this kind of stumbling block in our journeys that is keeping us from living these lives that, we really want to live, and not being stuck out there in the depression of life and the woe is me, I can't get my stuff together, right? So the second key problem that I would say is something that I learned way after law school, or excuse me, I won't say way after law school, it was after I passed the bar. So a lot of my journey with entering into the personal development world centered around, like, after I passed the bar, the quarter life crisis. If you guys haven't heard me talk about that, go back to some of my other past videos on self care, and I kind of explain that journey a little bit more. But it was I was like, it was like my first year as an attorney, and in the bar here in Georgia, we have what's called like wellness hours. So it is required that during our CLEs, an attorney has to have so many hours of wellness that we show up to our CLEs and we're talking about how to be well, how to perform at these high levels and still be well. And during my first year as a lawyer, I will never get this presentation that an attorney was given on wellness. And it kind of locks, you know, how you have those moments. I don't know, you guys let me know in the chat if you have those moments where something kind of like keys, like a key takeaway. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the chat. Where something just sticks with you. I don't know why. Somebody says something and it sticks with you, and it's like a grounding principle that you kind of keep coming back to. It could be a pastor who said it or whatever else. Well, that was this experience for the second issue that I see. The attorney was basically saying, you guys, when you are getting more into your field, right? When you are accumulating years as an attorney and you have cases and people's problems are constantly coming at you, you need to be mindful of your stress levels. And there are four stages to stress, right? There are four basically emotional, uh, almost like where the rubber meets the road and something shifts, where the tables turn. He was like, there are four key distinctions that you want to know of when the tables turn. And you've basically taken on way more than you actually can handle as a human. And so the first stage was you need to be mindful of when you are stressed, right? The second stage was you need to be mindful of when you're burnt out, right? So stress is what you feel first, burnout is what you feel second. And then the third stage was you feel depression. So depression is the third stage of if you've gone down for his purposes, he was talking about when we've taken on too much with our cases. If you've gone to burnout, you're in that third stage of a negative emotional experience and you're going in the wrong way, right? And then the fourth stage was unfortunately, it was when you're suicidal, right? Once you start having suicidal ideations or thoughts of not wanting to live or whatever else, you're in that fourth stage. And that fourth stage, of course, we understand what happens when someone is so down in that tunnel that they don't want to live in them anymore and they decide, you know, they're going to end their own lives. And he was, you know, what was interesting to me is I entered into, you know, the bar. I became an attorney during a time where lawyers had just got done having some of the highest suicide rates. And so I know, you know, this topic, if it hopefully is not triggering anything. If it is, you go to your counselor. But I like to make sure to know, you guys know when and how to work with me as a coach. Because there are just certain stages in your journey. It's not just the law that can take you to those four stages that I just named. It can be motherhood, it can be postpartum, it could be caregiving too much, it could be a heartbreak. There's so many experiences that can kind of take you out of a good, healthy work life balance. Right now, we're talking about work life balance, but there are so many things that can trigger those four stages. And stress is the first sign that you're in an unhealthy space, right? So where I am in my life now, I literally, you know, after hearing that as a first year lawyer, it stuck with me. And I began to notice what my body does when it's stressed out. And so the second problem that I find when it comes to coaching women and when it comes to helping you guys get your lives in a very beautiful and fruitful place, uniquely in the area of your self-care, your relationship with men, and your relationship with your money, we don't even know when we're stressed, right? So that would be the second key problem, I'd say, that shows up when we are talking about this work-life balance situation. You have no clue what, you know, you're very unaware of what happens to you and your body when you are stressed. So for instance, what it looks like for me is I know that when I am stressed, right? And I told you guys, I don't even, for where I am as a coach now and being a leader and a light in this space, I try not to even let myself get to the first stage of this negative state of emotion. Now it happens, you know, I, you know, have a very full life and I have certain parameters that we're going to talk about when I coach you. This is what we go through to make sure that these things don't happen in my life. But for most women, you have no clue even when you're stressed. What I see is most women wake up and they're in burnout and or depression before they've even stopped before they've gotten out of their masculine doing energy. I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do that. They're in burnout and or depression, before you even stop. And so you've basically taken your emotional bank account and run it down to the ground so far that, girl, like, you got to put in a lot of work, right? You got to put in a lot of work to turn the ship around because you let it go too far. You had no boundaries, right? Those issues with many of us in certain areas, and some of you have more areas than one where you need to really, up your relationship with healthy boundaries so that you can start putting more into your bank account. The role of self-care, the role of the purpose of self-care is, honestly, I wish we would call it self-nourishment. That's what I wish we would call it, because it's more than just putting a mask on your face, even though y'all know I'm queen of that. We're gonna put a mask on our face and some under eye cream, because one of the things that my body does when I'm stressed is it shows in my under eye, right? I'm like, girl, let me get my under eye together. I start looking weak, right? I start looking weak in my under eye. And so, but you need to find yourself valuable enough to start to become aware of what your body is doing when you enter into that first stage. And so, what that would be one of the second key problem that I see, that arises whenever it comes to this topic of work life balance, and then also how your self care practices can help support you as you're finding more harmony there. And so, in my story, again, once I heard that, I feel like it was almost like a safety rail. I definitely wasn't ready to be a teacher in this space the way that I am now, or a coach, but personally, it helped preserve me because I was like, oh, child, no. Like, when I started my first job as a criminal defense attorney, I was really big. I took 1 to 2 days off per month. I was very mindful that I did not, if an attorney needed me to cover a court for them, I wasn't the go-to lawyer that covered court for everybody. I was very mindful that, hey, there needs to be limits with the type of work that we do, because this work brings a lot of stress. So that would be the second thing that I'd say for you guys. And I know for me, my inner work around this topic has happened, like, it wasn't a linear process. It wasn't like the way grade school was first grade, second grade, third grade. No, for me, it was very layered. It was, there were different events at different stages from 25 until now. I've been in the personal development world for about 10 years now, in doing my own work, right? I've only had a brand for about 6 years, 7 years, but I've been doing intentional work in this space for that amount of time. And so at the end of the day, when you are inputting back into yourself, right? When you are developing, when you are growing, right? When you are, setting those desires and goals for your next level. Some of you are growing in your femininity journey. Some of you are just learning how to set goals and execute wherever you are at your level. One of the most important things you can do is be mindful of what you have in place to pull you out of those paths that take you down those really, really bankrupting emotional spaces. And I think what's even more important is that as a woman, you have set up a supportive community around you, and men too. It's mostly women who come into my space, but it's super important that you set up those really, like, nourishing communities and spaces for you, and that you also have your own personal practices that you do that get you back to your healthy space. And you know me, I love teaching that you should move into your divine, godly space as well. It doesn't mean that the areas of your life are going to be perfect. That's not what personal work does, but it means that you are compounding good decisions in your favor. So when you look at women or men who have better outcomes in their lives, right? You look at them and they have healthier bodies and they have clearer skin, and they have time to go and maintain their personal, like, today I have several personal appointments, so they have time to maintain what's going on with themselves personally. That is a very intentional set of actions that we do. And the truth of the matter is, what I love about doing your inner work is it equals the plane level for all of us. So what do you want? What is it that you want to do in order to, like, you like, Landasha, I hear you, girl. I identify these areas in my life where I'm past stress. I need to turn my ship around. So what are some of the things that we're doing next in order to get us out of those holes, right? So if you're in that fourth stage, I wouldn't be a good fit in terms of coaching and working. You guys, typically, if you're in that fourth stage where you like, girl, I don't even want to be here, you need therapy. You need a counselor. You need the cognitive behavioral therapy. Sometimes I know I've heard of like Reiki and it's EDMR. There's a lot of stuff that you go through in that level. Those are the professionals that you want to move with. The way you would use someone like me as a YouTube teacher, whatever else, I would be the person that kind of keeps you connected to the light, right? If you're in a very dark space, you want to have as many light givers and people who bring light, and you wanting to live again. You want to hold on to us. So you want to show up to the lives and all of our free content. You want to maximize that. If you're in that second or third stage, that burnout to depression, or that depression to burnout stage, you guys are if there's a certain key area that you notice that continues to take you into those spaces, then you may, of course, have the counselors and all of that. But what you want to do once you start to get into burnout and then again into stress, that is the woman that I am, uniquely positioned to aid, and the woman that I am calling into community with us. You are literally the person who is probably a self starter. You're not the girl that kind of needs your hand held a lot. You're super quick in your learning ability. And once you figure it out, it's like, okay, girl, I got it, right? But you need a community of women that are creating events, creating experiences, having good vibes, good vibrations, good emotional settings. You need to live. You're in that place where a lot of times you get to burnout or you get to depression because you've only allowed yourself to receive goodness in one area. Or I don't want to say goodness in one area, excuse me. You have overworked yourself in one or two areas, maybe parenthood and your job, and you've neglected the other parts of your life, right? So you're burnt out, you may be a little bit depressed, but you can come out of it once you start reconnecting to life. And you're the women that are going to show up to my events. You're the woman that's going to show up and participate in my, on social media with me. You're the woman that's going to show up and participate on YouTube because you're like, girl, yes, like we getting ourselves together. You have the plan for your day, you have the good group of friends that are around you, and you are healthy enough to be open to a new experience in life and to welcoming all of the beautiful and good things that God has for us in life. You actually have the emotional space to do that. So what I wanted to leave you guys with, in this quick pop-up that I was able to do today. I'm so excited I was able to pop up and check in with you guys, and I can't wait to see your key takeaways. Make sure you put your key takeaways here. Make sure you like the video, that you're subscribed to my channel if this really spoke to you, and that you're connected with me on social media, on Instagram. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat the Self-Care Queen course, because in this course, I use my unique signature method that has allowed me to maintain and hold the pose of a healthy and more vibrant emotional life as a woman, right? Like our emotions. I know people got so many finicky things around emotions right now. But I personally am very much so in love with my emotions. I actually have a great relationship with my emotional life, because I believe it is such an important part of our guidance system. It's the part whereby if it's healthy, God can drop something in your spirit fast. And because you're healthy emotionally and can hear, the direction, whether it's God or whether it's God sending someone, either one, you can hear the direction, you can hear the message very clear, and you can get what you need faster, right? When you see those of us who are kind of moving at the speed of light, or we're manifesting fast, or we're maintaining our manifestations for years and years and years, that's one of our secrets, right? One of our secrets is that we have such a healthy emotional life that when we live, some people say the universe, and that's okay if that's what you believe. I believe, God and his universe. I say both just to be like, well, the universe belongs to God, so why not? But I say both, that when God and his universe are speaking to you, that you heard him, right? You're not somewhere stuck on a negative frequency out in depression or suicide, and you're missing all of the signals that are trying to direct your unique life to a thriving, healthy place, which is God's original intent for all of us as human beings, right? He didn't, we choose whatever type of experience in life we want based off the healing work that we do and don't do, right? Sometimes we don't choose the events, but we choose whether or not we heal. And the healing part is what gets you back to your original state, your original energy, that organic energy. I've been having so many beautiful conversations lately with people who are trying to, they're really investing in getting back to what's natural and organic and how things are supposed to be in our relationships. And so when you coach with me, my signature process, which I call like the high end living process, this is when you are ready to manifest your top 15%, your top 10%, your top 5%, your top 1% life. It's just that glowing, like, you want to live for forever, right? You have a lot of forever things in your life. You're committed to your forever business. You have your forever relationships in your life. You have your lifelong friends. You have your beautiful, vibrant, flowing relationships with your community. You have a great relationship generally with nature. So you enjoy being out in nature, whether it's beaches or mountains or whatever, that every part of your life looks like it's flourishing because it is flourishing, right? It's not a, what do you call it? A facade, right? It's actually the truth. And so I teach from that paradigm. I teach from that space. And my high end signature method that I weave in throughout all of my courses and my events is a three-stage process, right? So get your pens out, write this down, and show up and start telling me how you may be implementing it into your life if it's speaking to you. But the first thing that you want to do when you are ready to live your best life, when you're ready to elevate, is you want to, what I call, Lean Six Sigma your life. And if you come from corporate, you know what Lean Six Sigma is. It means you get rid of all the waste. All of the things that are not performing in gardening, it would be called pruning. Um, it's getting rid of waste. And so everything in nature does this, from our bodies to nature and all. Everything does this. You need to have a process where you are releasing the things that are no longer working. Most women just let stuff that's not working stay in their life, and you wonder why you're so heavy. You wonder why. I was driving, and because I do this work every day, and because I coach women, and because I'm building this brand, and I see you guys. You're talking to me, you're saying that this is what's going on. You're sending praises my way, you're sending questions my way, you're sending situations my way. And I can see you, right? So there was this woman, I was driving and dropping my daughter off at her early learning program this morning, and I saw this woman come out, and she had on, like, these rags. She didn't look homeless, but she just had a lot of stuff on. And I was like, she got so much stuff on. I can only imagine what she's carrying emotionally. Well, emotionally and physically, you need to get rid of that waste, is the first step that we do in the process. And then all of my courses then move from there, and we go into the second and third process, which is, if you know me, I'm a fan of the 80-20 rule. We use the 80-20 rule in that area so that you can begin to retrain yourself on what's the 20% of the actions that are going to give me the most return, right? So, for instance, one of the things, and I know you guys, some of y'all struggle with it because you tell me, but let's say you have goals of manifesting your dream body. I'm manifesting my next dream body. I'm in my current dream body now. I lost all that weight from law school, kept it off. Then I got pregnant, lost the weight from pregnancy. I've kept it off, but I'm manifesting like my best postpartum body, and I have a vision for that. Well, one of the ways that I have been able to keep manifesting my best body in every stage is I understand what's the most important thing that the body has to have outside of oxygen is water. So my water intake is kind of like the first thing that I go to as an example for you guys. And it looks different with money if you're trying to grow your income or your savings account. You need to know what 20% of activities help you get the result that you're wanting to give. And that is a living, breathing thing as you keep growing, right? Because as you keep growing, your 20% that produce your best six-figure life may not be the 20% that produces your best seven-figure life, right? But God continues to reveal that in this living, breathing way that kind of makes life fun, in my opinion. It's fun. Life is always, sprouting something new in this world when you're elevating. And then the last thing that we do outside of the 80/20 rule that I teach you in my courses is we do best practices. So if the 80/20 rule is not landing or you guys are really struggling with that concept, then we turn to what's the best practice here. And best practices are, you guys know I'm a forever student. I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner. It would have nothing to do with my education. Of course, I was going to go to the highest level in formal education because I love to learn so much. But I'm also a self studier and intellect. You can gain intellect from so many different ways, right? Maybe you came from the streets or whatever else, but you learn through the streets, you learn through life experience. I learned through a book, just however you're learning when you're a lifelong learner, you pick up best practices, and if you got the results, you actually live true to that, right? You embody those practices. And so in the self-care queen, we talk about what that looks like uniquely in your relationship with men. We talk about what it looks like to embody the best practices in your relationship with yourself, your time, your energy. And so that is kind of what we do on the best practices side. And I find, best practices are all over all the disciplines in the world, biology, chemistry. I look at science, I look at sociology, I look at history, I look at, the law. I'm an attorney. So I look at my field, and, those are the processes that we use when we're in my courses. And it's not just, I don't do this work just from a place of just like, oh, this is cute. Let me come get on my calendar. No, this is about building forever community and having a great group of women around me who are like, girl, we're not afraid to, we're not afraid to be the lucky girls of God. We're not afraid to be God's favorite. Okay. If you're gonna hang with me, you can't be afraid to be God's favorite, because as your coins grow, girls sit in first class. That's what we're gonna do. Or, as God blesses your family or your husband, if you have a great provider and he wants to provide great things for you, receive that, right? We are over here knowing that we're worthy and kind of standing in that worthiness and being the women that are always growing in that, and we're becoming, greater recipients of God's best, right? We have the capacity because we're letting all those negative weights that I discussed at the beginning of this video go. We're not out here in suicide, we're not out here in burnout, we're not out here in depression, we're not out here in stress. We're over here in joy. We're over here in gratitude. We're over here in fun. We're over here in lightness. We're over here in, you know, uh, just orgasmic life experiences, right? We're over here in magnetism. We're over here like really learning something new about whatever we're interested in the moment, right? We're living life, and we're living life well, right? And that is such a desire for so many of us. And I love to have you guys in my community. If you are new to my channel, check out the Self Care Queen course. That's where I always tell you guys to start. Really refocusing on getting some of that energy pulled back into you, getting a healthy emotional state, because that will benefit everybody around you when you are lighter, when you are happier, when you are more joyful, when you are more, graceful. And when you're just not as heavy as a woman, right? That's just not what tis to work well for how we're made in our anatomy or any of that. So that is where I always direct you guys first. And those are my tips for, how to get a better work-life balance. And then also how your elevated self-care habits will assist you in that, right? They nourish you. They nourish that emotional state of who you are. And so again, don't forget to like, subscribe, show me your key takeaways, say hello so I can see who you are in the video and who made it to this point. If you made it to the end, say I made it in the chat so that I can know, and I just can, connect with you guys. Also follow me on Instagram. I'll make sure to link that And you guys enjoy your day. Okay. Bye, y'all.